Burkina Faso has just signed a $1.2 billion agricultural deal with India, a move that could shift the entire balance of power in West Africa. Tractors, capital, and cutting-edge technology are about to flood into a nation once dismissed as poor and dependent. But is this really about farming, or the dawn of a new era of sovereignty? Let's find out. Music. The announcement hit like a thunderclap in Ouagadougou. On a humid August morning, cameras packed into the government hall as President Ibrahim Traoré stood at the podium, flanked by senior officials and visiting Indian diplomats. His words sent ripples across the region. Burkina Faso had secured a $1.2 billion agricultural partnership with India. The agreement, hailed as transformative, promised fleets of tractors, modern machinery, and fresh financing, laying the groundwork for what Traoré called a new chapter in our nation's independence. For a landlocked state long ignored in global trade, the figure was staggering. $1 to billion was more than an investment, it was a declaration. Rarely had Burkina Faso appeared in headlines for landmark international deals, yet now it stood at the heart of one of Africa's most ambitious agricultural programs. The scale stunned even seasoned analysts, who were more accustomed to hearing the country's name in connection with insurgencies and coups. At home, the announcement electrified the population. Supporters flooded the streets, waving flags and chanting Traoré's name, casting the deal as proof that their nation had entered a new era of dignity. Farmers, traders, and ordinary citizens called it the birth of what we were told could never exist. On social media, Burkina youth shared images of tractors, reimagined as symbols of pride and power. Across the region, neighboring governments watched with unease. For years, Burkina Faso was written off as a fragile state defined by instability. Yet with a single deal, it had positioned itself as a potential agricultural powerhouse that could dominate food production and trade across the Sahel, for countries still reliant on imports. The prospect was unsettling. Would Burkina Faso undercut their markets? Would it tilt regional trade toward Ouagadougou? Outside Africa, the announcement sparked both fascination and suspicion. Western media called the deal unexpected, questioning how such a small economy could absorb a package of this size. Some doubted the state's capacity to deliver, while others speculated it signaled a deeper geopolitical realignment. For India, it was proof of a bold new Africa strategy. For France and other Western powers, it was a reminder of their declining influence in the Sahel. But inside the government hall, symbolism reigned. Traoré invoked the sacrifices of Burkina farmers, who for decades tilled their land with little more than hoes and hand tools. He made clear this was more than an equipment purchase, it was a rewriting of history. "We are no longer beggars at the gates of those who once ruled us," he declared. "We are partners shaping our own destiny." The applause that followed drowned out every other sound in the room. And what made the announcement even more shocking was not just its content, but its timing. Only months earlier, Burkina Faso had announced a series of bold projects to nationalize parts of its gold sector and expand investment into local agro-processing plants. Critics warned that the state's resources were already stretched thin. Yet instead of retreating, Traoré doubled down with a deal so massive it instantly redefined the scale of his ambitions. The message was unmistakable. Burkina Faso was no longer content with gradual steps, it was leaping forward. As the announcement spread, analysts scrambled to dissect the details. What exactly did the $1.2 billion package include? Who would finance it? How would the tractors be distributed? Would smallholder farmers truly benefit, or would elites capture the rewards? Questions multiplied, but one fact was undeniable: Burkina Faso had seized the world's attention in a way it hadn't for decades. Beneath the headlines, however, a deeper question lingered. Could tractors and machinery really alter the destiny of a nation? And if so, why was mechanization considered such a decisive weapon in Burkina Faso's gamble for independence? When news of the deal broke, many outside observers asked, why tractors? Why would a government channel such vast resources into machinery at a time when security, infrastructure, and health also demanded urgent attention. The answer lies in the country's silent struggle, one not fought with bullets, but with the soil itself. For decades, Burkina farmers have tilled their fields with rudimentary tools, hoes, wooden plows, and sheer human labor under the punishing Sahelian sun. These tools carried symbolic weight, representing resilience and endurance. But resilience is not prosperity. In a nation where more than 70% of the population relies on agriculture, yields have remained painfully low. Entire families work acres of land only to harvest just enough to survive, with little left to sell. The absence of modern equipment has locked farmers into an endless cycle of poverty and food insecurity. Mechanization is the sharp break from that cycle. A tractor is more than a machine, it is a multiplier of human capacity. Fields that once required weeks of back-breaking labor can be plowed in a single day. Planting seasons become faster, harvests more reliable, and post-harvest losses shrink. In the Sahel, where rains are fleeting and timing is everything, tractors mean farmers can act at the first drop instead of losing precious days to manual toil. What makes this agreement unique is not just the delivery of machines, but the ecosystem being built around them. India's involvement ensures that tractors will not simply arrive and rust in village squares, as has happened in past modernization drives. Training programs, workshops, and service hubs are part of the deal, teaching operators how to run the machinery and training technicians to repair them. Even spare parts, so often the missing link in African mechanization, will be guaranteed within the package. The intention is clear. These tractors must become engines of productivity, not relics of abandoned promises. Mechanization also opens the door to crop diversification. For generations, farmers focused on staples like millet and sorghum, manageable with hand tools, but limited in market potential. With tractors, they can expand into maize, rice, wheat, and high-value cash crops. This not only strengthens food security, but creates new income streams. Burkina Faso has already set a target of harvesting 6,000 tons of wheat in the 2025-26 season, a figure that would have been unimaginable without mechanization. Now, with fleets of tractors on the horizon, that ambition no longer feels like a dream but a plan. The broader significance of mechanization lies in how it redefines farming as a career. For generations, agriculture in Burkina Faso has been seen as backbreaking, low-status labor. Young people often abandon the land in search of opportunities in cities or even abroad. Mechanization changes that perception. Operating modern machinery, managing larger plots, or working as trained technicians brings new respect and economic potential into rural communities. In this sense, tractors are not just engines of agriculture, they are engines of social transformation. Still, questions remain. If mechanization is so vital, why did it take until now for Burkina Faso to embrace it at such a scale? The answer is less about farming itself and more about the shifting geopolitics of Africa. The arrival of India in this space raises deeper questions. Why is New Delhi investing so heavily in Burkina Faso? And why is this partnership happening now? The tractors may plow Burkina fields, but the strategy behind them stretches far beyond Ouagadougou's borders. India has long maintained ties with Africa, but historically these ties were modest trade in pharmaceuticals, small-scale investments, and cultural exchanges. Unlike China, which aggressively built roads, ports, and railways, or the West, which maintained dominance through aid and extraction, India remained a quieter, secondary player. This deal marks a turning point. New Delhi is no longer content with being a marginal partner. It wants to establish itself as a serious stakeholder in Africa's future. Why Burkina Faso and why now? Timing is everything. The Sahel is undergoing seismic shifts. France, the former colonial power, is losing influence rapidly as military regimes in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso push back against its presence. Russia has stepped into the security vacuum with arms and military support. China continues to secure infrastructure and resource contracts. Into this crowded field steps India, but with a different playbook: food security. By investing in agriculture, The backbone of Sahelian economies, India positions itself as a partner that impacts daily lives, not just security or mega projects. The deal also reflects India's own strategic needs. With 1.4 billion people, food security is a permanent concern for New Delhi. Climate volatility has disrupted its own harvests, while reliance on global grain markets leaves it vulnerable to shocks. Partnering with African countries like Burkina Faso offers insurance. If Burkina Faso's agricultural sector thrives through mechanization, India gains not only a trusted food supplier, but also a loyal political ally in global forums. This is why India's financing goes beyond loans. It includes grants and public-private partnerships designed to entrench influence, not just extract resources. On the African side, the move is equally significant.